Please listen here. So we have been studying about the physiographic barrier. So you know what are the different types of physiographic barrier. Now next type of barrier is the vegetative barrier. Vegetative, from the term itself you can get a clear idea. Vegetative means vegetation related with the plants. So sometimes the presence or absence of plants can act as a barrier. So here there are number of cases are explained here. Arboreal animal. Arboreal animals means animals living in trees like monkeys, squirrels, etc. They are living in trees. So arboreal animals cannot cross regions where forests do not exist. For example, if there is a forest and after the forest there is a grassland, and after the grassland there is again another forest. But an animal like a monkey living in a forest cannot cross that grassland and reach the next forest. If the grasslands are kilometers of wide, it may not be possible for a monkey or a squirrel to cross a grassland and reach a forest area. So, absence of forest, absence of trees can act as a barrier for animals living in trees. So that is the case. So in the case of arboreal animals, they are depending on the trees for number of factors. One, for the presence of food, because monkeys are eating the fruits of present in the trees, and sometimes they will be depending on the small insects and other animals present on the bark of the trees. So for their food, they are depending on the trees, and also for their shelter. Shelter means place of residence. They are when the trees are present, they are protected from sunlight and also from heavy rain. So for shelter, they are shelter and protection. They are depending on trees, and for protection from predators. Like monkeys are how monkeys are escaping from predators like leopards, tiger, etc. When a tiger or leopard is coming, most of the monkeys will be climbing to the topmost branches of the tree where leopard may not be able to reach easily. So they are also protected from predators like tiger or leopards by the tall branches of the tree. So for protection they are depending. On a grassland they won't be able to get that protection. That is why animals which are living on trees may not be able to survive in an open grassland where they are constantly exposed to predators and they may not get enough food, etc. Some plants need certain species of insects for their pollination. There is another case. Now, in the absence of certain butterflies, some plant species may not reproduce. They may not able to multiply. So they are depending on there is a famous case of dodo and a tree in Mauritius. You might have heard about that. So, like such cases are there is a close relationship between one particular tree and an animal species. In the use of Silent Valley, there is a tree, there is an animal called lion-tailed macaque. And this lion-tailed macaque has a specific association with one particular type of plant. I forgot the name of that plant. So in the absence of lion-tailed macaque or in the absence of the tree, both species may not be able to survive. So there are such closer association between one animal species and one plant species. Now some caterpillars and insects seen only in certain plants. For example, a monkey or a squirrel or other kinds of animal reptiles are feeding on insects. They can survive only on a tree where those type of caterpillars or insects are available. They may not able to survive on a tree where these insects are unavailable. So these are the situations of how vegetative barriers are acting as a barrier for the migration distribution of animals. Now, how animals are depending on trees? One case is food. Many animals need particular species of plants for their food. Already we have seen the case. Only they are very much depending on one particular type of food. For example, in the last class we have studied about eucalyptus as well as panda, eucalyptus and koala. there is a closer association. Similarly, panda and bamboo leaves. And so such kind of associations are there. In the absence of those tree species or plant species, these animal species may not be able to live or survive. Insectivorous plants contain certain space contain insectivorous plants contain not certain contain specific insects. Frugivorous birds need certain specific fruits. Rewrite the sentence. Insectivorous plants need certain specific insect. Then the need is missing. Similarly, frugivorous means animals eating fruits, fruit eating animals. So they also need certain type. For example, if a plant, you think of the case of squirrel, think of the case of a bat. They are all depending on certain specific type of fruits. In the absence of those specific type of fruits, these animals may not be able to live or survive. So there is the red panda. They have seen giant panda. They are all good examples of closer association between plants and animals. They are depending on bamboo leaves. So similarly, there are a lot of cases where unavailability of plants, especially one particular plant species, can act as a barrier for the distribution of animals. Now, another case is the case of enemies, presence of enemies or presence of predators. Spinodon. Spinodon is an animal, actually, it's a reptile animal. Then another case is the egg-laying mammals. Flightless birds are found only in places where their natural enemies are absent. For example, egg-laying mammals, you take the case of egg-laying mammal, they are all only present in Australia and in New Zealand. Then flightless birds are mostly present in Australia and New Zealand. The reason is that ബ്ലഡ് എ പോസിറ്റീവ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള ആരെങ്കിലും ഉണ്ടോ? എ പോസിറ്റീവ് ബ്ലഡ് ഉള്ള ആരെങ്കിലും ഉണ്ടോ? നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ബ്ലഡ് ഡൊണേറ്റ് ചെയ്യാൻ താല്പര്യം ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ഒരു ചാൻസ് ഉണ്ട്. വില്ലിങ് ആണെങ്കിൽ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് പോവാം. എ പോസിറ്റീവ് ബ്ലഡ് ഗ്രൂപ്പ് ഉള്ള ആരെങ്കിലും ഒരു ബ്ലഡ് ഡൊണേഷൻ ആയിട്ടാണ്. ഓക്കെ. Now another animal is the case of spinodon. Maybe some of you may not be knowing about the spinodon. It is also known by the name Tuatara lizard. Now going to the this animal is known as a spinodon. So this basically present in the Australian that part of the world. It is also a reptile. Okay, I am just distribution of this P node. So this is the animal known as a spinodon. Now it is considered as a living fossil. Now, right now, the spinodon is mainly present in islands of New Zealand. And in addition to New Zealand, in some other islands also, this spinodon is present. So, in the case of all these animals, what we are seeing is that they are right now present only in certain areas where enemies to these animals or predators to these animals are not present. That is why egg-laying mammals are present, like kiwis. And there are many other types of animals, birds are also present in Australia. They are only present. They are now present in Australia because in Australia, bigger predators like a lion or a leopard or tiger, such bigger predators are absent. So because of that, they can safely live in a land where these predators are absent. So presence of enemies can act as a barrier. Now another factor is competition. So along with the vegetative under the vegetative barrier, the vegetative barrier is one case. In addition to vegetative barrier, there are presence or absence of food can act as a barrier. Presence of enemies can act as a barrier. Now there is another case is called competition. Interspecific competition for food and space force weaker species to move from one place to another. Interspecific means they belong to one species. Now, the two animals which are belonging to one species, sometimes there may be separate varieties or subspecies in a species. So, in such cases, both species, for example, earlier we have seen about the case of a giant squirrel as well as a red squirrel. Giant squirrel was introduced from America to the European region. When giant squirrel was introduced, the habitat of the red squirrel slowly got decreased. So what happens is that when two similar species are competing for one type of food, either only one species will survive. The second species may either get extinct or perish or slowly move away from its native habitat. There is a law called Polish exclusion principle. Polish exclusion principle. That principle says that no two species which have similar requirements can survive together. It is a universally applicable law. Even in the case of human beings, we can, if there are two people in a group, both wants to be the leader. Only one person can be the leader, or one person can be. So then there will be intense fighting. It is a natural process that we are seeing every day in life. Even these human beings, human society, we are finding that no two species have similar requirements can survive together. So either one species has to modify its requirement or move away from the original habitat. So interspecific competition for food and space force the weaker species to move from one place to another. But due to the appearance of new competitor in the new place, this weaker species may not survive. So that is only those species which are more highly adapted can survive. The weaker species means species which do not possess some adequate number of adaptation, adequate level of adaptation. They naturally perish. The second species, more stronger, more powerful species, will be surviving. In some places of Australia, appearance of rabbits diminishes the marsupials in their original homeland. You know that rabbit is a species introduced by human being from Europe to Australia. In the case of rabbit, they are highly adapted. That is a placental animal. So compared with the marsupial mammal, placental mammals have better adaptability. So in presence of rabbit, marsupial animals may be facing a case of extinction. The rabbit will be occupying most of the natural habitats used by the marsupial animals. So in a long process, what will happen is that marsupial animals may not get sufficient amount of food, sufficient amount of habitat to live. So slowly their population decreases. And this is the case where when the rabbits are introduced into the Australia, that is greatly reducing the marsupial animals there. So these are all examples of competition. Then another type is intrinsic barrier. So there are basically two different types of barrier. One is an extrinsic barrier or external barrier. Barriers which are present outside the body of the animal are known as extrinsic barrier or external barrier. And what we were seeing are all cases of extrinsic barrier. Now we will be seeing intrinsic barrier. Intrinsic barrier, there are a number of examples for intrinsic barrier. Some animals are by nature lazy and do not like to move from one place to another place. So here there is a bird called Rwanda. Scientifically it is Zosterpos rendova. It's a bird. Never moves from its native area and try to withstand all calamities. So this is a very good case of bird. It's a bird called Rwanda. Even if there is flooding, hurricanes or any kind of natural calamities are there, fire or other kinds of natural calamities exist, they will be occupying the same spot or same area. They are not moving away from their natural native area or natural habitat. So then another process is phylopatry. Phylopatry. The definition is also given that some animals are by nature lazy. They won't be very active. For example, you might Kuttitevang, Malayalam, if you observe the habit of that what is called what is scientific in English, loris. Yes. So if you observe the habit of the loris, it is moving very, very slowly. So such animals are by nature lazy and they do not move from one place to another place quickly. Then sea anemones. Sea anemones are also another case. They are also attached to one particular spot. They won't move from that spot very much. So they are also very slow moving animals. Then another peculiarity of the animals is the homing instinct. Homing instinct simply means coming back to home. Even if they are moving away from just like you human beings. Even though you are moving away from your home, in the evening you are going back to home. So that tendency of animals to stick on to their home, to one particular place, that nature is known by the name homing instinct. Animals are also exhibiting this homing instinct. They may move from their home place or home range to some other far off place, but in the evening or after few days they will be coming back to their home range again. That tendency is known by the name homing instinct. Many of the species, many animals are exhibiting this homing instinct, and because of that is preventing the distribution of animals to far away places. So that is another behavioral instinct. So in all these cases, these are all intrinsic barrier. Because some behavioral factors, some psychological factors are preventing animals from moving from one place to another place. So many animals, vertebrates are exhibiting homing instinct. Migratory birds are showing this. They do not prefer to move out of particular area because they are quite comfortable. So even when you are moving for a job or studies to another place, you will be always coming back to your home because home is a safe place, a comfortable place for you. Even if it has a lot of difficulty, since you are used to live in that place for a long, it becomes comfortable for you. Similarly, animals also consider that place as a comfortable place. Even if there may be difficulties, they always return back to their natural homes or native areas after a while. This tendency is known by the name homing instinct. Then another factor that is preventing the distribution is the parental care. Those animals having a long period of parental care cannot move a long distance because when youngs become free, they are habituated to their mother's land. For example, in the use of elephant, in the use of human beings, we have a very long parental care. So when the child gradually grows up and become an adult, several years might have gone, and during that several years, the children might feel safe being in their homeland. So that tendency of an extended or a long parental care is also preventing many animals to move away from their homeland. So these are some good cases of why animals are not moving away from one place to another place. Then habitat selection is another factor. Each migrating animal always try to select an area similar to the homeland. That is another problem. When an animal which is used to live on a particular type of tree or a particular type of plant or a particular type of water body, if they are unable to find a similar type of tree or a similar type of plant or a similar type of water body, they will not settle there. So that is another problem. So absence of good places for good places for good habitats for surviving can also prevent some animals to restrict to certain particular area. So that is another. So in the case of migrating animals, they are always trying to find an area similar to their natural home, similar to their natural homeland. So when they are unable to find that, they will be going back to their original home. So these are all cases of what are the different. So under the intrinsic barrier, we have a cases of philotropy is there, where animals are lazy or slowly moving. Second case is the homing instinct is there. There is a tendency of the animals to come back to their home range again. And third is the parental care. By means of parental care, those animals which are exhibiting a prolonged parental care, a very long parental care, they will be getting used to their mother's homeland, so that they feel quite uncomfortable in a foreign land. Then habitat selection is another peculiarity. That is when animal always tend to select an area which they feel comfortable, similar to their original native land. So these are some of the reasons why animals are not moving from one place to another place. So under the different types of barriers, we have to see what is there are basically two types of barrier. Intrinsic barrier, you can expect a essay on this, give an account of the different types of barrier, then you have to explain all the different types of barriers. See, there are basically two types of barrier. One is a extrinsic barrier, then another is an intrinsic barrier. Under the extrinsic barrier, you must explain what are the physiographic barrier, then biotic barrier. Biotic barrier simply means vegetative barrier. Then climatic barrier. Climatic barrier is also another type. And about the climatic barrier also we will be studying soon. So these are the different types of barrier that you have to keep in your mind.